Flexible routines to implement for summer, how to have consistency without doing overly strict schedules.
So bedtime routine is in two parts. The first part is getting them to bed. That's the easy part. The second half of bedtime routine is the hard part. It's how to keep them in bed. There's no anger. You do not want obedient little soldiers.
And what's your response about the word manipulation?
Of course they know how to manipulate you. They learn that at a very young age. Everyone asks about discipline, but that's not what I'm about at all. I deal with bad behavior, but then I focus on the good kid. My focus is always on making kids feel good, connecting with them, having fun with them, increasing their self-esteem, increasing their pride. That is always my number one goal. How do you think they treat that person who makes them feel great? Welcome to the BratBusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at BratBusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie. What? My dad used to call me Sweetie Pie. He always called me Sweetie Pie. Okay, sweetie. What are we talking about today?
Today is, well, I know it's summer, a vacation for a lot of people. So we're doing flexible routines to implement for summer and how to have consistency without doing overly strict schedules.
Very good. Very timely.
Very timely. Very nice.
Very demure. We watch a lot of TikTok. Okay, so yeah, you should still have some sort of a schedule. It can be very loose. It could be, it doesn't matter what time you get up, but once you do get up, you still have to make your bed. So it can be a looser schedule, but kids, we all kind of thrive on structure and routine. I know if I don't have something to do, I become just a bit of a vegetable. I'm really prone to that. I could just hit that couch and rot all day if I don't have something to do. So I do need scheduling, and kids are usually like that. I always say I'm like a 64-year-old toddler, so I relate to kids. So I know what I'm like if I don't have something on my schedule, if I don't have something to do.
Oh, I need a packed calendar. Literally the second I hit that couch, I'm done. So I relate to that a lot. I know that you talk about there being 3 routines that you like to have in place.
Yeah. Well, one of them won't apply here, but it's school morning routine, mealtime routine, and bedtime routine. Those are throughout the year, basically the 3 routines that I really stick to, I think are really important because there's stuff that happens every single day, except on school morning, obviously. But school morning routine is really important to have a routine set up. It just makes it go smoothly, right? Mealtime routine happens 3 or more times a day. And then bedtime routine, obviously. So I would still keep those 2 going, the mealtime routine and the bedtime routine. But you can have exceptions. You might say, we're going to have a picnic in the backyard, so you don't have to sit up at the table, so you can sort of mix it up a little bit, but try and have some routines with exceptions because it is holidays.
That makes sense. I guess in the morning, would you still have some sort of a morning routine on holidays?
What I would have is you still have to make your bed, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would do that. You still have to sort of get up and get dressed. Let's say within an hour of waking, you've got to get dressed, make your bed, maybe tidy up your room a little or something like that. But yeah, you want to have sort of the same chores, I guess is what I'm talking about there.
That makes sense. And then for the BratBusters Behaviour Board, would you recommend if someone's going on vacation or maybe just staying home, like would this be a good time if someone's looking to start or?
It's always a good time to start the behavior board, unless I'm working with someone, because I know it's just a bit different if I'm coaching someone. Then I say, well, let's just wait until you're back. But when you go away, if you've already started a behavior board, when you go away, you can still have it. But obviously things are going to be a little bit different. Like if you have no hitting as a rule for the kids, you can still have that when you're out. And then their consequence would just be different. So they might just have one consequence. And that consequence is you delay the fun by a half hour, let's say. So let's say you're going to Disneyland and everyone's going to go at 9. You might say, okay, so you broke the rule. You hit your sister. So tomorrow morning, you can't go on a ride for the first 30 minutes or something, or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever. They might miss the first ride. Something like that. So you delay the fun. You never end it sooner because you don't want to have one hell of a night, but you delay it at the start. That's how you have a consequence when you're on holidays. It's usually really good because you've got lots of leverage when you're away. They want to go on that ride. They want to go to the beach or wherever you're going.
Okay. And then how would you, maybe we'll pick like one of the 3 routines. Like how would you start setting it up?
Setting up a routine just generally. Well, the bedtime routine is probably the most successful thing of everything I teach that's really common with a lot of families is bedtime routine. So bedtime routine is in two parts. The first part is getting them to bed, and it's usually 1 hour long. And you say, here's our bedtime routine. So between 7 and 8, if you want them in bed by 8, you started an hour earlier. You say, and make sure you don't feed them or give them any liquids 90 minutes before bedtime. So if you want lights out at 8, they can't have anything to eat or drink after 6:30 because you don't want them wet in the bed or whatever. Because when they get mad when you're keeping them in bed, they might purposely wet the bed. This is for younger kids. And this bedtime routine is basically from about 2, so long as they're out of the cot, out of the crib, to about 8. That's when this sort of works. So then the bedtime routine is you got to have a bath, brush your teeth, get in your jammies, whatever. And then whatever time is left over, we'll read books. So if they don't get through that, their punishment, if they like you reading books, their punishment just for not even getting in bed might be there's no book reading that night. And that's their choice. Remember, this is their choice, okay? Or if they're really little, you might read one book instead of several because you don't always want to take that away completely. So then that's the first half. The other half, that's the easy part. The second part, the second half of bedtime routine is the hard part. It's how to keep them in bed. Now that one, the first time that you put them in bed, they need to be able to get out of bed though. This doesn't work if they're in a crib. So you say, okay, good night, stay in bed, lights out, that's it. Make sure you've done the monster check. You might want to have galaxy lights going or sound machine, whatever makes them comfortable. You say, okay, good night, stay in bed, love you, we'll see you in the morning. So you leave and then you don't stay in their room, you leave. If they get out of bed, you walk them back to bed and you say, I said it's bedtime, don't get up again. You say that once and that's all you say. You put them back to bed. If they're kicking and screaming, just one body part has to touch the mattress. Okay, you're not tucking them in. You're not talking to them. This is it. You've already done all that. This is just them getting out of bed. The next time they get out of bed, you say one word. You say bedtime. And then you walk them back to bed and one body part has to touch the mattress. Now, every time after that, you don't look at them or talk to them and you keep putting them back to bed. Walk slow. If you walk fast, you look like you're mad and you're panicking. Walk real slow. Try to look as calm as possible. And you just keep walking them back to bed. It might take 10 times. It might take 50. The longest I've ever heard this going, I think the kid was about 8. He was totally in charge. I think we did this in about the 3rd or 4th week of coaching. This was years and years ago. And he went till 5 in the morning. This kid was used to getting his own way. And we knew it was going to be hell. But I said, boy, you will step up in your leadership situation if you can manage this bedtime routine. Anyway, and they went till 5 in the morning. And then the kid never got up again. The next night he didn't get up. The one after, he never got up again. That was the start of their leadership, like really kicking in. So bedtime routine, it just tends to work. It's very black and white. There's no gray area to it. So they keep crying out, I'm scared, I'm lonely, I need a hug. Ignore it all. It's just manipulation. They're just trying to pull you in. And you don't have to hug them every time they ask for a hug. If everything's going great, I would. But if they're acting out and they're in bed, they know they want to get out of bed, and I need a hug, just ignore it. That's not a love hug. That's a manipulation hug. That's, I can get you to come in here and do whatever I want. Okay, it's pure manipulation. That is not a love hug. You've already hugged them. You've already kissed them. You've already said, I love you. You've already put them to bed. That was part of the first part of the bedtime routine. Okay, so anything that happens after that is just pure manipulation.
What's your response what's your response about the word manipulation? Because I know online some people claim that kids don't manipulate. So what's
Well,
your
they don't
take
know
on
what
that?
they're talking about. Of course they know how to manipulate you. They learn that at a very young age. A little baby can learn if they drop something, you'll pick it up. If they're in their high chair, they'll drop it and pick it up. And then they don't even want to drop it anymore, but they like watching you pick it up. That's manipulation. It's control. It's taking charge. It's getting someone else to do what you want. That's all it is. Of course they can learn that. That's ridiculous. Whoever says that probably doesn't have kids or doesn't know about kids. Not that I'm opinionated, but it's ridiculous. Anyone who knows kids says, of course they can manipulate.
You know, when you were talking about bedtime, it reminded me of this story. Maybe we can tell it quick about the firefighters coming into my room.
This was really weird. My daughter was a safety freak. She still is. So am I. Like, we're really into safety and we're very cautious people. We don't tend to take a lot of risks. Anyway, so it was at our house. We had like a townhouse at the time, and there was 3 levels. You would have been about 10, 12 maybe. And she was fast asleep. It was in the middle of the night and it woke me up. Our furnace caught fire. Like some little fire had started in the motor. Some wire had burnt itself out, and then it shot that smell throughout the whole house. It literally woke me up, but it had burned itself out. So it wasn't a real fire. Anyway, it was just a small electrical thing. So anyway, woke me up in the middle of the night, probably 1 in the morning. And So my son he wasn't home yet. He was a teenager. He would have been like 17 or something. He was still out. So anyway, I instantly called 911 for the fire department, and they came over. And well, the funny part was, the first part was, I'm really fussy with the housekeeping. You know what I said to them? At the front door, they turn up and I said, I smell this smoke. I hope I sort of disturb you. I hate disturbing people. And they said, well, that's what we're here for, right? And I said, oh, by the way, before you come in, would you mind taking your boots off? Because I'm really fussy. And they said, ma'am, we don't fight fires in our stocking feet. They had to come in with the boots. What a stupid idiot. So I just laughed. I said, come on in. I was kind of embarrassed at that point. So they went straight down to the furnace, and because I said it's probably coming from the furnace. And they said, yes, there was an electrical blowout. The furnace didn't work anymore. I had to replace that whole thing. Anyway, so then they said, we better check. We have to do a whole check of the whole house. So we lived on 3 levels. So they went up to the 2nd level. They checked everything. Then they went up to the 3rd level where our bedrooms were. And my daughter was fast asleep up there. Now she's very safety conscious. I come in the middle of the night with 2 or 3 firemen with me, like all these strange men in her room. She wakes up and I said, everything's okay, sweetie, just go back to sleep. And these men are in there checking her room. And she goes, oh, okay. And she went right back to sleep. Like it was nothing. She had no memory of that. So she never really woke up. But anyway.
I'm a deep sleeper.
Yeah, but she goes, oh no, that's okay. Like, my God, she got scared so easily. And yet all these strange men are in her bedroom at 1 a.m.
Didn't bug me at all.
No, didn't bug her at all. Anyway, so that was a bit scary. But yeah, very expensive too. It was about $5,000. Not that I'm bitter, but anyway.
Okay, time to let that one go, I think.
That was like, what, 20 years ago?
Okay, I think we'll get into the questions.
Sure.
Okay, so we have Stephanie from Canada, 2 girls, 7 and 4. We've completed the behavior board back in February, but have gotten off track. So how do you get back? Should we start back at week 1? Do you need to make new boards and change rules as well?
Okay. Sometimes I'll say you should start with brand new rules just to mix it up. But what I would say, they're 7 and 4, especially for the 7-year-old's benefit. I would say, look, we messed it up. We didn't do it right. We didn't follow through. We're going to get it right this time. So you got to own it. If you don't say anything about it, they don't get it. Whereas if you own it, say, look, we messed up. We didn't follow through. We didn't make it work. We're going to make it work this time. So you can put the same rules on there, or you can try something different. But they already know you failed with the behavior board, so they're less likely to follow it right away. Unless you say, by the way, we messed up. So this is the new one. We're going to make this one work. You see, you got to own this stuff. You can't just pretend it didn't happen. They're not stupid. They're going to remember, wait a minute, you didn't do it before, so you're not going to do it again. That's why it's important to say that.
Makes sense. Okay, the next one is Chelsea from the United States, 3-year-old and 10-month-old here, and I try to follow as much of your advice as I can, but my 3-year-old refuses to nap at home most of the time unless I lay with him. He's used to not do this and occasionally will pull himself to sleep, or put himself to sleep. I tell him he has to have a quiet time or nap. It's up to him. He starts going a bit crazy and making a mess. After a while, I get him out because there's no point anymore. But when he doesn't nap all afternoon, he becomes a nightmare. How do you parent in this situation? Are the rules the same?
Yes and no. Okay, not all kids need naps. My kids both stopped regular naps at about 12 months old. So, but then they'd have accidental ones. So they don't all need naps, but you need him to have a nap or some quiet time. Have something like that. It's just, I was going to say studious. That's not it, but something calm like Play-Doh or artwork. So you can set him up with that, or you can set him up with a puzzle or just some books or something on the couch. Give him a little Afghan, set him up with a pillow. You can have like a quiet corner or something where this signifies that, hey, this is just going to be some quiet time. You can sit with him for a few minutes initially to get him into it. But it has to be something that he would actually like. Like if he doesn't like reading, it's probably not going to work. Okay, but try maybe Play-Doh, just anything calm. And you'd be quite happy if your kid played with Play-Doh for an hour or so and just got out of your hair. He played quietly, wouldn't you? So it's just something quiet, calm. It should be something he likes. Don't give him the same old stuff all the time. Kids don't, well, I mean, sometimes they like stuff for a long time, but it's usually something creative like Lego, something they can build. But get them new stuff. Like I had a toy library where we lived, and every single week I'd go and get new stuff at the toy library. Kids like different. They like new. They like discovering stuff. So get him something new. Just have a little goodie bag full of stuff that he's never seen before. You can rotate it around. If he hasn't seen it in a couple of months, it'll be like new again. That's the toy rotation system I often talk about. So yeah, pull out something new. You know what my mom would do? I didn't know why she was doing doing it. But now I look back and I realize she's trying to get me out of her hair. She'd say, oh, I think I've got something for you to do. I love doing craft projects and everything. So anyway, she'd say, oh, I think I got something in the cupboard. She had like this goodie cupboard and I couldn't see up that high. And and I swear to God, she would drag it out just to watch me squirm. I go, what you got? What you got? I couldn't stand still. And she'd go, now let me see. And then have her arm deep in this closet. No, that's not it. What's that? What's that? What you got? And she'd pull something out. It was just some little coloring book with some crayons. It was no big deal, but it was new. And Mom would really build it up too. Like, wow, I got this for you a while back. Oh, I forgot I had that. No, we'll put that one aside. Like she built it up. So yeah, do that. Have a sense of wonder with your kids. Don't be boring. Always be pulling out different stuff, have different ideas, or it can even be all the same old stuff, but you use it in a different way. I remember with my kids, what was it? Sugar. I can't remember what it was. I think it was just toilet rolls or toilet paper or paper towel holders or something. And I showed them you can tape them all together and make this really long thing. And then we had like marbles we'd throw through it. It's just old paper towels and toilet rolls and a few marbles. Think outside the box. Look for stuff. You can actually just look for videos online and it could say something like this. Cheap, fun stuff to do with toddlers or little kids stuff that you have around the house. I was good at that. I was always pulling something out.
I remember distinctly the Play-Doh that you would make, the homemade Play-Doh, and it was that salt dough or whatever it is. And I'd make little pizzas because I love cooking. And so for me, I just loved that activity.
I hate cooking. I love cleaning. I was probably making little mops.
Cleaning up the Play-Doh.
That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I made new Play-Doh all the time and then we'd mix colors. And so you have to do a bit of work to get them to be entertained is what I'm saying. But it's work up front.
I looked up ChatGPT, some calming activities, and it was like journaling. And I'm like, maybe not for a 3-year-old.
Maybe not so much. No. You forgot to put for a toddler or for a 3-year-old.
I did. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, I don't like journaling either, so it wouldn't calm me.
Well, you often say you're like a 64-year-old toddler, so.
I am a 64-year-old toddler, but give me some Play-Doh and I'll be happy. There you go. You see, that proves my point.
Okay.
Actually, I would be happy.
Next question is Josephine from Australia. My children are 3, 5, and 7. We completed the 5-week BratBusters program and we've had success, so thank you. My question is around screen time. A couple months back, I set a rule of only 90 minutes of screen time per day for my 5 and 7-year-old. They're mostly in control of how they spread that time out. They usually ask for the iPad after completing their morning routine. I find myself feeling guilty when they have their iPad during the weekdays because that's the time we aren't bonding and connecting. Since they are at school from 9 to 3 and we only really have limited time in the morning and after school, do you think 90 minutes of screen time is too much during the weekdays with school? Thank you.
I actually do. I think 30 minutes would be better. The only exception would be if you're all sitting around watching a show together, like family movie night or something. But yeah, I think 90 minutes is a bit much. I would maybe cut it down. What I would do though, to make it fair, it should be more for the older ones. So you can say at 5 it starts and it might be 30 minutes, but for the 3-year-old it might be 15. Because older kids aren't, okay, it's a bit psychological tricking here, but older kids tend to be happier with what they get, even though you've minimized it if it's more than their younger siblings. Did that make any sense?
Yes, that did, because I'm just thinking about, well, I guess I'm the younger one, so it wouldn't really work in my favor, but I can see that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff I do like that, but yeah, they tend to be a lot more compliant. If you say, by the way, you're younger, and you might even cut it down for the 5-year-old. You might say, or you might want to say from 5 to 7, this is how much time you get. Then when 8 to 10, you get that much time. You might want to group the 2 older ones together, especially if they're same sex. They'll be more likely to compare each other. But yeah, so give that a go. I do think 90 minutes is a little bit much. Yeah. But, I always say I don't really have a set idea of how much screen time they should get. But my gut reaction is that you might want to cut that back a little.
And then maybe what are some good ideas for like connecting with the kids that aren't screen time?
So the ones
just in general, like if you're not doing screen time, what are you replacing it with?
Well, I always hesitate when I've got too many ideas. That's when you get silly. I used to do a lot of mini Olympics with the kids. So I would say, okay, so you watch mom. Like if I had to get something done, I would say, okay, look, I'm going to make dinner. So you watch me and I'm only allowed to skip. I'm not allowed to walk anywhere. So I would literally skip from the sink to the fridge, to the bathroom, from the toilet to the sink, and they'd watch me like a hawk. And if not, they would earn something, like they'd get to do something fun or whatever. So yeah, I was always interacting like that, no matter where my kids were. And they were always near each other. I like my kids around me all the time. I could always see them in our open plan. So I was always interacting with them. But just that little game. Now imagine how engaged they would be if they thought that they'd get a treat afterwards or something. You might go to the park later or something. If you do mess up, you go. I always made sure I messed up. So if I said, I'll tell you what, if I forget to skip, we'll go to the park after dinner. And they'd be watching me like a hawk. Now, are they going to be a pest while I'm cooking dinner? You see? It's just fun. Just goofy. It's nothing. There's no, people want these games that they buy, they're spending a lot of money on toys and that. Their love language, children's love language is fun, humor, joy, laughter. I was good at that. And that doesn't always, well, usually isn't about money, to be honest, at all. And, a lot of parents too, they'll take their kids to special places and they'll say, oh, well, we connect with them all the time. We take them here, we take them there. But are you doing those things with them? And also connecting isn't these big, what do you call that? Big grandiose experiences. It's the little stuff. Like when we were in the car, we'd always play I Spy. When I was cooking dinner, I'd do silly stuff like that, or they'd often be doing their own thing. This is only if they were kind of being a pest, I would do that. Or when I was doing the laundry, all the underpants went on my head and I chased them around the house with underpants on my head. So no matter what I was doing, there was always a place for my kids in my life, like when I was home. And they knew that too, by the way. And they weren't pesty. If I said to them, I need no kid time, scram, they would. Because their cup was overflowing with a lot of fun with mom already. So that's why I could say scram, and they respected that. Didn't you?
Yeah, I remember never taking offense to that.
No, because they knew how I felt about them, and they knew how much I enjoyed them. So when I did say scram, I need some no kid time, they would happily skip off and do something on their own for a while. But yeah, I earned that. I put a lot of time into them, not because I felt I should, but because I wanted to. I really enjoyed them. I thought they were fun. But I got all that pesky discipline out of the way when they were really little, so they weren't acting out with me. I set myself up as a fun leader, a calm leader, and therefore they don't tend to act out with a leader. They just don't. Then I could just relax and enjoy them, which I did. I wallowed in parenting. It was the most fun time of my whole life. Just every single day, laughter. And we'd all do something silly every day. It was good. It was good.
Okay, the next question is Katie from the United States. My child is 4, getting ready to turn 5 in a few months. I've been using the behavior board and everything has been going great, but one thing, dinner time. I dread dinner time as well as my husband. We have put not eating dinner on the board, and I was wondering if this is the right way to go about it. My husband and my daughter and myself all sit down at the same time to eat. My daughter would rather talk. So once my husband and I are done eating, we tell my daughter you have 15 minutes to get dinner eaten. If not, the consequences go straight to bed. Lately, she has been upping her game, and as soon as I tell her 15 minutes to be done, then she decides to call me names like you're an idiot. I ignore it and don't give it attention. My husband, on the other hand, has a hard time ignoring that and sends her immediately to her room. Can you shed some light on the situation? Should the name calling be addressed through the behavior board, and any strategies for dinner time? I feel like she has become accustomed to the time that she is given after my husband and I leave the dinner table, and she knows that she has an additional 15 minutes to complete the meal, even though she doesn't.
Well, you kind of already told me what's happening. You don't have a real system set up, and also your husband gets mad. As soon as you get mad, she knows she's won. Even if everything is a disaster after that, she still knows she's controlled things. So here's what I would do. I would put on the behavior board, the rule is, you don't say eat, or you don't put eating, because I don't like to tell a kid to eat. It's different. Plus, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor. I can't really get into all that stuff, but I can go into the manners around eating. Okay, that's all I'm talking about here. So I would say, okay, here's the new mealtime routine. By the way, I hate talking about mealtime. It is a tricky one. It just is. My kids never were allowed to eat or drink anything except for the kitchen table or the dining room table. They didn't know any different. They literally did not know any different.
I genuinely remember when you first let me eat on the couch, I was like, this is so weird.
It probably would have been an apple or maybe a bit of popcorn if we were watching something, but it wouldn't have been a meal. Like it wouldn't have been anything substantial. But yeah, you probably would have been, 16? There was just no food around our
25.
house.
I finally.
Yeah, 25. She finally allowed that. Anyway, Okay, where was I? I forgot. Oh, the mealtime. Okay, so put down follow mealtime routine. And then underneath, you write down the mealtime routine. There's usually 4 steps, but you can customize it to your family. You write it down and stick it underneath the behavior board. I'll explain what it is in a minute. You also write it up again and put a little placard or something or tape it in front of where she sits for a meal as a reminder. She's little, she's not reading yet, so put pictures. The rule number 1, this is the mealtime routine. Rule number 1 is come to the table within 5 minutes of being asked to do so. Rule number 2 is don't get up while you're sitting down. Like, you can't get up. Once you sit down, that's it. No toys or no devices at the at the table. And the 4th one is put your dishes on the counter or in the sink when you're done, whatever. So put them up on the bench or counter when you're done. Well, you're in Australia, aren't you? I don't know. Anyway, they say bench over there. That's the kitchen counter. Anyway, and that's it. Now, here's the thing. Don't say anything if she doesn't follow those rules. Just keep your mouth shut. That's the hard part. But you're investing in tomorrow, not today. I can't help you today, but I can help you tomorrow. I can set you up for a better tomorrow, but nothing we're doing is going to solve anything in the moment. So you're going to put that on the behavior board and you're going to say it starts tomorrow. So the next day you say, okay, remember the mealtime routine. So you do say that. Remember the mealtime routine. Okay, I'm going to set the timer. You've got 5 minutes to come to the table, and you always talk like that. There's no anger. You do not want obedient little soldiers, so don't talk like that. You at the table 5 minutes. Don't talk like that. It doesn't get any results. It builds resentment. So, okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to come to the table, blah, blah, blah. So you've set the timer. And then she doesn't do it. Don't say a word. Get her to the table any way you can after that, whatever. Just say, come to the table, and don't say anything during the meal. She's probably going to do everything wrong. She probably won't eat. I don't know what's going on there, okay? Don't worry about it. After the meal, say, oh, meal's over. Let's go to the behavior board. Then you go to the board and you say, now let me see. So your rule was follow meal. See how methodical I am? Very organized. So I said, now let me see. So your rule was follow mealtime routine, and you didn't come to the table within 5 minutes, and then you broke some other rules. So here's what we're going to do. And then you follow through with the consequence. This will probably take a week or more. It is a tough one. I don't even like teaching it because it takes so long. It's frustrating. It just is, because parents get mad, the kid's not eating. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes around it in coaching, but that's my general advice for mealtime routine. There's a consequence if they don't follow it. I don't discuss the eating in there. That's sort of another topic, and I don't want to discuss that generally. I do discuss it more in coaching, but I can't give you any advice on eating, because what if they have a medical condition? Or you see what I'm covering my butt here, but you get the idea. That it's more about the manners is what I'm focused on. And if she's not eating, also, if kids aren't eating, the more you tell them to eat, the less likely they are to do it. So I would just sit and eat and chat, and then eventually she will catch on. If you're a leader, you're not giving them anything to push back against. So they tend to just follow along after a while. They get sick of fighting because there's nothing to fight against. So the more you nag, the less likely they are to do what you want. Also, here's another, I can tell you this. Oftentimes they won't eat a meal because they're waiting for the snack later. That snack would be the meal that I'd put away in the fridge. There's no way they would get something different. That would be their snack later on. So oftentimes they will hold out and wait for that ice cream or whatever after dinner. See what I mean?
Okay.
And because we're talking about food, are you going to edit any of that out?
No, because you made the disclaimer that you are not a nutritionist.
Yeah, I want to make that very clear. And I know she edits everything out that she's not comfortable with, but that I'm comfortable with that.
I mean, it's shocking there's even a podcast.
I know. She edits so much. And I told her not to, because I don't have a filter really. And she's very filtered. She's very cautious, but I'm pretty careful with what I say. So I'm comfortable with that. And it's good advice. Oh, what?
No, I think people, maybe if they follow your social media, they're like, that's the edited version?
Oh, well, if they watch a live, they're like, ooh, that's when everything flies.
There'll be sometimes where she'll like, did you watch that live? No. Okay.
Good. Well, in coaching and in lives, I let it all fly because she has no control over that.
If you want the unfiltered,
if you want the real me, check out a live and check out the coaching. Yeah, you're gonna get what I'm thinking.
It's a little bit of both though, because I feel like the reels and the short form videos are so short that sometimes the whole context gets taken a little differently.
Well, and also we often say we want to make this clear that everyone asks about discipline, but that's not what I'm about at all. You look at the pool story. If you Google BratBusters pool story, it'll pop up. I don't let anything go. I deal with bad behavior, but then I focus on the good kid. My focus is always on making kids feel good, connecting with them, having fun with them, increasing their self-esteem, increasing their pride. That is always my number one goal. How do you think they treat that person who makes them feel great? If they feel good, they do good. If they feel bad, they do bad. The more you're talking about their bad behavior, the worse you're making them feel. And you're gonna get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. I've been thinking, just in general with your social media, I've been thinking about maybe taking your like videos that reach quite a few people with a lot of comments that you haven't been able to get to answer, and possibly having you answer them in a podcast. So
That's
if you want to listen to something like that, let us know.
Yeah, because I don't see any of the comments or anything, but you do. So I just don't have time. I'm busy coaching usually. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be great. I would love to answer some of that because a lot of stuff's taken out of context too. My big picture is I deal with bad behavior, but my focus is always on the good kid, bringing out the good, not squashing the bad. The bad I deal with, but that is not my focus. I don't focus on that. The pool story sums it up perfectly. So yeah, check out that. I've talked to, I can't even say it again. I've said it so many times, but I can't. I'd self-destruct if I had to tell that story again. Anyway, I've told it thousands of times, but it is a really good, it's a really good message in what I'm all about. If you don't make someone feel good, you're not gonna get good out of them. You will for a while. It's fear-based, it's intimidation-based, but you don't want that. You can end up with really obedient little soldiers as kids with very low self-esteem. Do you really want that? I don't. I want kids who feel great, have high self-esteem, they're confident, they have pride in themselves, they have autonomy, control, and they want to do good because they feel good about themselves. That's always my goal. I've been doing this since I was 11 years old. I started this, not the business. I'm a parenting coach. I'm only 11, but I was volunteering with kids in daycare centers. I got that. I knew that if I made, and I didn't take any crap either. I knew if I made kids have fun and feel good about themselves, I got that good back. I instinctively knew that at a very young age. So, and I've never changed the way I deal with kids in that's 54 years, 53 years. It's all the same. Just make them feel good and they'll do good for you.
Well, we've talked about that, but it's the same with people.
Everybody, you make them, people won't remember what you said or did, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Sorry, I should have said adults.
I
Kids
know,
are people.
I do that all the time. Works with people too. Yeah, I get it. So with adults, but yeah, doesn't that make sense? If someone makes you feel great about yourself and brings out your pride and confidence and all that stuff, how do you treat that person? That's all I'm teaching here. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
Okay.
Simple. It's very simple. The psychology behind it's simple, but doing it is not easy. It's hard because you're changing your basic personality. If you were raised and being lectured at, which I never was. I've never been yelled at, and my parents never lectured me ever. So a lot of what I teach is similar, but I'm a bit tougher. They let too much go. I think my dad especially spoiled me, but he died when I was young, so that made up for that. No more spoiling. But anyway, but yeah, I think that there's too much out there about lecturing and discussing all these big feelings and big emotions. Think about it. It's usually around the negative stuff. It's usually around their behavior. I don't do that. I deal with bad behavior, then I focus on the good kid. They can talk about their feelings and emotions with me, but I don't dwell on the negative stuff at all. I don't discuss bad behavior. I do not do that. Now, I specialize in troubled teenagers. Believe me, if anyone supposedly needed a lecture, it would have been these kids. No way would I do that. No way. I knew that was the worst thing to do. Never did it.
Okay, we have one final question. So it's Natalie from the United States. So 4-year-old and 8-month-old. 4-year-old struggles with nighttime routine and constantly drags it out. We're pretty consistent, but how can we address this? Disciplining right before bed doesn't feel right, then he cries himself to sleep. Do we defer the consequence to the morning? Should he then get no books? Routine is change clothes, use bathroom and brush teeth, 2 books, hugs, pray, and then he picks a Tony, an audio story, to play while he falls asleep.
Well, okay, so he's playing a story to fall asleep. He's not learning how to fall asleep on his own. I'm not going to nitpick with that. But I already went through the whole bedtime routine. It sounds like you're coddling him going to bed. I would let him cry himself to sleep. That's okay. That's not, whenever kids are crying, remember, they're coming out of babyhood. He hasn't been a kid for very long. He was a baby and a toddler. Crying is how they often communicate. Like crying to them is not like with us. If we cried ourselves to sleep, at 64 years old, that would probably be traumatic over something horrible, right? But a 4-year-old, it's just, I didn't get my own way. I can't control my parents. It's more like that. So it's not the big emotions. Their cries sound horrible, but they're not usually driven by a lot of really strong emotions or feeling of neglect. So not the way you think it is. So yeah, I already talked about bedtime routine. He's kind of controlling you. You're pulled into his emotions. It's a bit of theater, bit of drama. Let it go. It's just manipulation. He needs to go to bed, follow through with the plan, and you never discipline at night. The consequence, the discipline is you putting him back to bed. That is, you don't discipline that the next day. There's certain things I will, but I'll just for the sake of this podcast, you just follow through with what I already said with bedtime routine in the first little bit of this session, of this podcast. And then the second one, that is the discipline, is you continually walking him back to bed without looking at him or talking to him. Why aren't you talking to me? Nobody loves me. Just ignore all that. It's pure manipulation. He's trying to control you. That's all.
Okay, that was everything for the podcast.
Okay, I already forgot what we were talking about. I always forget the title of the podcast. I just get so engrossed in what we're talking about.
It's about routines for summer.
Routines for summer. Summertime can be great. I loved it personally. But my kids were, pretty easy to be around because I put the work in. I earned that, by the way. You got to work for this. It doesn't just come naturally. You got to earn it. I worked my butt off to get respect with kids when I was working with them and that. And once you've got it, then you can relax. Okay. So getting respect is hard work, but maintaining it is easy. And you've got a lot of time in the summer with your kids. It's actually a great time to do all this. So yeah, and you never put attitude on the behavior board ever. There's no point whatsoever. If they have a bad attitude towards you, that's on you. You've caused that. They don't respect you. You've got to set yourself up as a leader, and then they will not talk to you like that. Like it just won't happen. So work on yourself and look at it this way. If they're acting out, it's your fault. Always take responsibility. Always. When I was working with kids, maybe I had them for an hour a week, maybe 90 minutes per week. And if they acted out, I always thought, what am I missing here? These weren't even my kids. A leader takes full responsibility and blame. They also take the credit when the kids turn around and are great. So I did do that too. Oh, what'd you do with that teenager? He's great now. And I go, well, you know what I did with. So, but I worked for that. I earned that. Okay. You got to work for this. It's not hard. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You're investing in tomorrow. Okay, so I guess that's it. We'll end here, and thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon. Happy parenting.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out BratBusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit BratBusters.com/disclaimer.